Freud believed that sexuality was never just about the act of sex. It was the heartbeat of the human psyche. Libido, as he called it, was the current of life itself. To him, our desires were not embarrassing intrusions, but the engine behind ambition, creativity, and even civilization itself. Yet the world we live in has taught us the opposite. Repress it, hide it, lock it away. From a young age, men are told their impulses are dirty, shameful. Something's to be controlled not with discipline, but with denial. The boy who explores his curiosity is scolded. The teenager who shows desire is mocked. The man who admits to being overwhelmed by lust is seen as weak. And so, little by little, the walls of repression are built. But what happens to energy when it is locked behind walls? Pressure builds. Freud compared it to a steam engine. Desire doesn't vanish. It forces itself into other cracks of the mind. In the modern world, you can see this everywhere. The man who swears he has no interest in sex spends his nights secretly scrolling explicit content, caught in endless loops of dopamine chasing. The pastor who preaches against lust is caught in scandal months later, exposed not because his desire was unique, but because his denial was unsustainable. The corporate leader who presents himself as perfectly disciplined suddenly self-destructs with a public affair, a gambling addiction, or fits of rage. These are not random downfalls. They are the consequences of walls built too high and too tight. You can watch the prison forming even in smaller examples. Think about the man who cannot express attraction openly. Instead of walking across the room to speak with someone he desires, he buries the feeling under a mask of coldness, only to later erupt in private with pornography and self-loathing. Or the husband who pretends his fire has gone out, not because it has, but because he has swallowed the shame of wanting more than routine allows. These men walk through life split in two. The version they allow the world to see, and the repressed version clawing at the bars inside their mind. Freud argued that this split is where neurosis is born. Denied desire transforms into restless anxiety, irrational fears, compulsive habits. Look at the modern man with his constant distractions, endlessly scrolling social media, binge eating, drinking every weekend, chasing work until burnout. These aren't random habits. They are often the disguised returns of buried libido. The repressed sexual drive doesn't politely disappear. It demands expression. And if it cannot express through intimacy or creativity, it mutates into nervous tics, destructive routines, or hidden compulsions. So many men believe they are free because they keep up appearances. They wear the mask of control, of order, of being above it. But inside, they know the truth. They are prisoners of their own denial. Their cell is invisible, built out of cultural shame, fear of judgment, and their refusal to face their own nature. Freud saw clearly what most refuse to admit. Repression doesn't kill desire. It only makes it return in twisted, unhealthy forms. And the more a man denies this truth, the tighter the walls of his prison close in. Death of Desire, the Stoic's path to cold clarity. This is not a guide. This is not self-help. This is war. Kill the need. Master the mind. The unconscious doesn't forgive neglect. Freud taught that when desire is pushed down long enough, it doesn't disappear. It disguises itself. It leaks back into life through shadows, compulsions, and unexpected outbursts. You see it when the man who prides himself on being pure suddenly explodes in rage at the smallest slight. You see it when the office worker who preaches self-control spends every lunch break locked in a bathroom stall, scrolling pornography like it's medicine. You see it when the father who holds the image of a stern role model is secretly addicted to strip clubs or escort services. On the outside, they look functional. On the inside, they are haunted. This is Freud's shadow at work, the return of what was buried. Modern culture breeds these doubles. Scroll through the headlines, and you'll find story after story of men who built public identities only to watch them crumble under hidden compulsions. The politician caught sending illicit messages, the celebrity exposed for addiction, the spiritual guru who, after years of teaching denial, is revealed to have lived a double life. These men are not simply hypocrites, they are victims of repression. The more they denied their erotic nature, the more violently it returned in the dark. What they couldn't integrate eventually consumed them. But it doesn't have to be scandalous to be destructive. Look at the average modern man. He's at work, silent, robotic, polite. He plays the role. But behind his calm exterior, his mind is buzzing with intrusive thoughts he doesn't dare share. He feels a pull to his co-worker, but buries it. He craves intimacy, but suppresses it. Instead of dealing with the tension directly, he numbs himself at night with alcohol, video games, or endless swiping on dating apps. The repression splits him into two: the mask he wears during the day, and the shadow that rules him in secret. And that's the danger Freud warned about. Repression divides the psyche. A man cannot deny his deepest energy without paying the price. He becomes fragmented, disjointed, respectable on the surface, but restless beneath. He starts living two lives. And when you live divided, you live weakened. How can a man focus on greatness when his mind is pulled by compulsions he doesn't even recognize as his own? How can he build empires when half his will is locked in a cage underground, clawing to get out? The tragedy of repression is that it fools men into believing they are safe from desire, when in reality, they are ruled by it more than ever. The unconscious doesn't care about appearances. It only demands balance. Deny it long enough, and it will return, not as pleasure, but as neurosis. Not as vitality, but as self-destruction. The man who won't face his shadow will eventually be devoured by it. In the alchemy of lust, you'll be taken deep into the ancient and forgotten discipline of sexual transmutation, a principle once reserved for monks, warriors, kings, and creators. A man cannot live in denial forever. The walls crack, the pressure builds. Eventually, the repression either breaks him down or forces him to evolve. Freud understood this long before the modern age, but the truth is clearer today than ever. You cannot outpace your own shadow. It will catch you in the end, and so the choice for every man is simple. Remain a prisoner of repression, or step into the dangerous but liberating work of transformation. The first step is awareness. This sounds cliché, but it is the most terrifying act a man can perform. To sit with himself in silence and admit, without filters, what he truly desires. No pretending, no mask, no religious shame, no politically correct censorship. Just raw honesty. That honesty is rare in the modern world. Most men would rather drown their awareness in distraction, scrolling until their thumbs ache, swiping until their eyes glaze over, numbing themselves with alcohol or work or casual hookups that mean nothing. They would rather hide from themselves than face the raw fact. They are driven by impulses they don't understand and can't control. Awareness is liberation because it turns the unknown into the known. The man who says, "Yes, I feel this desire," strips it of its poison. Shame loses its grip when the light hits it. The shadow weakens when it is recognized. Imagine a man who has spent years fighting his compulsions with secrecy, every relapse into pornography, every late-night indulgence, every obsessive fantasy. He hides it, tells himself it doesn't matter. The hiding multiplies the guilt, which multiplies the compulsion. But the day he says, "This is me, this is my energy, and I will face it," the cycle begins to break. That is awareness. That is the key turning in the lock. But awareness alone is not enough. If a man only admits his desires and does nothing else, he risks swinging from repression into reckless indulgence. This is the trap of so many men who believe freedom means doing whatever they feel. Number, that is just another prison, the prison of addiction, the cage of weakness disguised as liberation. Freud warned against this as much as he warned against repression. The true path is sublimation, the art of redirection. Sublimation is not denial. It is not pretending you don't feel lust or drive. It is taking that same fire and feeding it into higher flames. The greatest works of civilization were not built by men who had no desire. They were built by men who refused to let desire rot underground. The artist pours it into his canvas. The writer bleeds it into his pages. The athlete shapes it into dominance on the field. The entrepreneur converts it into empire-building hunger. This is not weakness. It is alchemy. The raw, chaotic force of libido becomes structured power in the hands of the man who dares to use it. Look at the difference in the world around you. On one side is the man who represses. He plays the role of the good citizen. He hides his drive. He buries his fire. Outwardly, he looks stable. But inside, he's restless, compulsive, exhausted from the war within. He spends his nights in shadows, porn tabs open, fast food wrappers on the table, drinks in his hand, swearing to himself that he'll do better tomorrow. He thinks his life fell apart because he lacked discipline, when in reality, it collapsed because he built his house on repression. Now look at the other man, the one who chooses transformation. He feels the same urges, the same hunger, but instead of burying them or indulging recklessly, he refines them. When he feels lust, he channels the energy into his craft. When temptation knocks, he uses the pressure as fuel for his body, his business, his art. He has mastered the art of pause, not suppressing, not exploding, but redirecting. The result? His energy radiates. When he walks into a room, he doesn't need to speak. His presence announces itself. People feel something about him they can't explain, a mix of calm and intensity, like a fire contained in glass. That is the aura of sublimation. Freud called repression the seed of neurosis. Indecepta calls sublimation the seed of power. A repressed man lives fragmented, split between what he shows and what he hides. An indulged man lives enslaved, ruled by every urge that strikes him. But the sublimated man, he lives whole. He does not fear his drives. He does not bow to them either. He bends them, molds them, turns them into force. That is what separates masters from prisoners. Think about modern icons of strength. The fighter who disciplines his body to withstand punishment most men couldn't imagine. The musician who turns heartbreak and lust into timeless songs that move millions. The builder who works 16-hour days to carve his vision into reality. Do you really believe these men had less desire than you? Or do you see now that they had the same storm, but they learned to ride it instead of drown in it? Thus remember, we are Indecepta. Becoming Indecepta is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, Prepare for war. Welcome to the Indecepta archive, where the undeceived rise. No ads, no distractions, just pure, uninterrupted power. As a crusader of the archive, you gain infinite access to every video, every truth, every strategy, without censorship, delay, or interruption. New drops daily, delivered to you before the world sees them. Raw, unfiltered, elite. Indeceptions.com